Gray was not just the weather, but the mood on the San Francisco waterfront that morning, now almost exactly 17 years ago. In that undulating mushroom soup of a fog, one of my favorite ships was being nudged from her berth to begin an overseas tow to her death. Like an old but once beloved thoroughbred champion being dragged off to the glue factory, the Oceanic, better known as American Export Line's 1951-built Independence, seemed to resist. But with the tow chains dangling like shackles over that proud bow that once cut through Atlantic swells and later tranquil Hawaiian paradise, she slowly emerged. Now a lost art, her beautifully balanced profile projected a dignity and grace, while the faded paint and streaks of rust from almost 7 years of neglect were veiled in the morning murk. That unique silhouette was a combination of futuristic streamline and archaic elements like her counter stern and that pair of tall, thin, cigar-shaped funnels. She was the vision of industrial designer Henry Dreyfuss, who gave us the New York Central locomotive for the 20th century run, various Hoover vacuums, John Deere tractors, stylish fountain pens, and the SX-70 Polaroid camera. Of all those and many other impressive designs, I'd wager, and if you're watching this video, you'd probably agree, that Independence and her twin sister, the 1952-built Constitution, were Dreyfuss's most enchanting. Now that she's entered the bay, let's head her off at the proverbial pass for her triumphant exit. In the hour or so it took for the tow to reach the lookout south of the Golden Gate, the fog had lifted. Now bathed in bright sunlight, the Oceanic no longer looked reluctant. She actually appeared commanding and regal, and her tugs, instead of dragging her, appeared to be escorting her. She made a slow pass in front of Alcatraz, with the overseas tug Pacific Hickory in the lead, and the local Delta Diana by her stern. If you have to say goodbye to a beloved ship, there's no more beautiful setting to do it from than San Francisco Bay. So in a nutshell, the Independence was the first major U.S.-built transatlantic liner after World War II and served with the Constitution on American Export Line's New York to Mediterranean Sun Lane route. She was laid up in 1969 and eventually sold to Orient Overseas Line, who renamed her Oceanic Independence and operated her out of South Africa for a season in 1975 before laying her up in Hong Kong and renaming her Sea Luck 1. In 1980, through an act of Congress, she returned to the American flag and was revived on 7-day Hawaii cruises as the Oceanic Independence for American Hawaii Cruises. Not counting 2 overnight voyages to San Francisco from Long Beach on the Prudential Line Santas and a truly dreadful 3-night cruise to Ensenada on the Cunard Princess, the Oceanic Independence was my first true cruise ship. During her maiden season, she took me around Hawaii for the first time, and some of my fondest cruising memories were forged on her glorious teak decks as she sailed through paradise. In 1982, her name reverted to Independence, and in 1994, the Indy, as she was affectionately called, was given a life-extending refit at Newport News. I would get to sail in her again for her 50th anniversary in 2001, but soon after, in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, American Hawaii declared bankruptcy. The Independence slowly sailed from Honolulu to San Francisco, arriving on November 8th to be laid up at the Alameda Naval Air Station. From there, she was moved to Suisun Bay, and in 2003 she was purchased by Norwegian Cruise Line, who toyed with the idea of rebuilding her for U.S.-based cruising, since her American-built hull would actually meet Jones Act requirements. She was next moved to Mare Island and remained laid up, not far from where the Aurora is being broken up now. In 2006, when NCL decided to abandon their idea of rebuilding the ship, she was renamed Oceanic and sold to Global Marketing Systems, a scrapbroker. Which brings us to this morning's departure. And meanwhile, the real story was about as murky as the morning fog, while the Oceanic, which was supposedly bound for Singapore, would ultimately change her destination to Dubai, where she was laid up. In Dubai, she was eventually renamed Platinum II, and under that name was denied entry to the Alang shipbreaking yards due to toxic elements on board. Not that she was any more toxic than other ships being scrapped at that time. In 2010, she was stranded off Gopnath, not far from Alang, where she broke in two and was finally demolished on site. It just never ends well for these beautiful ladies. And that, my friends, was the abridged version of the Indies story. Speaking of bridges, and regardless of what lay in store, she did look magnificent as she passed under the most beautiful bridge in the world. Despite the sadness of the situation, it warmed my heart to see the Delta Deanna giving her a water salute just before she parted ways. And so she gently pitched onward through the Golden Gate, past the Marin Headlands and the Point Bonita Light Station, as she bid farewell to American shores forever.